My name is John Pontrello, and I am a music teacher. If you have the patience, I am going to teach you how to learn and teach the piano using Google's Chrome Music Lab web browser-based application, Shared Piano. All right, that is a mouthful, and so I'm going to break down what I am talking about. So first off, I want to talk about the tool that I'm using here, and this is Shared Piano. And what Shared Piano is, you can just go into Google, type in Shared Piano. It'll be the first thing that comes up. And what it is it's an application that is accessible to anyone with a web browser. You don't need to download anything. And it's really these applications that they've been making that has been inspiring me to make these videos, because anybody with a computer or with a phone or an iPad or whatever can learn music. You don't actually need to own a musical instrument. You can get started with just going to a website, and if you get interested, you can then buy a keyboard or guitar or whatever you are interested in. But I think this is just a great entry point because it allows everyone to play around with the piano. And they also have a lot of other different applications that you can play around with to learn about music and have some fun. So this one specifically, you can use a what is it called? You got your laptop and the typing keyboard, so the letters will actually play keys. If you have an iPad, you can just press it's a touch screen, you can press it. It also gives you the ability that I have a digital piano keyboard sitting right in front of me right now, and I have an adapter that goes out to the laptop that I'm using. So when I play it on here, it comes onto the screen. Now, what is amazing, what makes this not just a piano but a shared piano, is that it's kind of like a chat room, okay? So anybody who has this link can enter this piano room, and I can have up to 10 people, or you can have up to 10 people, and you can all play the piano at the same time. Or for someone that's like a teacher, I could be teaching a class to 10 people. They could all be in the same piano room, and when I play a key, it shows up on their screen. When they play a key, it shows up on my screen and everybody else's screen that's in the room. So during this time of everyone being stuck at home and having a lot of time in online learning and teaching, this is an amazing tool. It actually came out in June. They were planning to release it later, but they were like, I think the developers realized, let's release this in its beta stage and get people using it. And I think I'm so happy that they did, because it's given me the opportunity to use it as a teacher and get inspired to make some videos about it. So let's see here. So one thing I want to talk about before I dive into this was a couple things, but I think as a student of music, as a teacher of music, I think it is so valuable to understand a little bit about the keyboard, because it is such a visual way to learn music. Even if you're a guitar player or a clarinet player or bass or whatever, I think everyone who plays music can benefit from learning a little bit about the piano. So that's why I've kind of developed this lesson to really teach you the basics. My business I call Primary Colors Music Instruction, because I think the primary colors of music are melody, harmony, and rhythm. Okay, so what I like to do is, for everything I teach, kind of focus on each one of those and individually. And because learning music, it's really just a lot of simple things happening simultaneously. And to try to learn those and do them all at the same time, I think is very difficult. And I kind of think if you can just practice one individually, which is a lot easier. Once it becomes a part of you, once it becomes second nature, then it becomes possible to combine with something else that's become second nature. But until you've reached that point where you can do one thing at a time, it really becomes difficult. It's kind of like, what's that thing? Rub in your head, tap in your belly, or whatever. If you can't do one of those, what makes you think you're going to be able to do two of them, to combine them and do them at the same time if you can't do one? So music is like that. It's doing all of these simple things simultaneously. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the expectation in piano to read music. A lot of times I have the parents of my students, they are very surprised when I tell them that I don't read music. It's like, it confounds them. They're like, how do you play music then? And the way that I kind of look at it is it's, playing music is like speaking music, but you don't necessarily have to learn to read and write music to be able to play it. It's like you could hear a song and you could hum it. That's kind of the same thing. So really what we're learning to do is to hear something and then to be able to hum it. And then I think to be a musician is to be able to play something that you can hum. Yeah, play something that you can hum. And I think this is really kind of one of the fundamental skills of playing music. And so how do we learn to do that? And that is by learning how to speak the language of music. I'll also say, I've had a lot of students who came from other piano teachers who were just amazing. You could put a piece of paper and they could, play all sorts of really complex things, play things that I can't even play, and they're young kids. But if I hum something, I ask them to play it. They have no idea even where to start. So I think that is a big problem because it makes you dependent on a written piece of music, and it makes it kind of hard to have fun with music. And I think music should be fun and creative. Now, not to say that I don't think that there's a place for reading and writing music, but I think it's important to learn to speak and to write the language of music first. I kind of think about kind of like a metaphor, like if you're in kindergarten and you're learning the primary colors, you don't necessarily expect kids then to go and then learn how to paint the classical paintings of the masters of the 16 and 1700s. Okay, that's kind of how I feel like how we treat music. We teach kids so that they can learn these genius musical pieces, but I feel like a lot of times what happens is they skip over some of the more fundamental aspects of really internalizing music. It kind of just goes straight from the eye to the hand. Okay. Now I know there's probably a lot of people that would argue with me that it is useful to learn to read and write at the same time you're learning to speak, but I think it's just so complicated to learn how to read and write and kind of do the more complex things in music. I think my approach is to learn to speak the language of music, and then if you want to take it to the next level, then you will have such a solid foundation to do that. And I think anyone that does take it to that level will have benefited so much from really being able to internalize music and improvise. I've had so many students, who were like child prodigies, but they want to learn just how to improvise, even in the most simple way. And that's kind of, so I work with a lot of kids. I also work with a lot of, sometimes people that have like a college degree in music, and they're just like, I never learned how to understand it in this way. This makes so much sense. So that's my approach in a nutshell. So I'm going to start with just some of these basics, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'd be happy to chat with you. Okay, so the first thing to learn on the piano is what are the note names? And because if we don't know where they are, it's hard to be on the same page. So the most basic thing to learn is where is C. All right. So I want you to hold up 2 fingers here, and you'll notice there are there's 2 black keys, 3 black keys. So 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay. Now what I want you to do, take the ones where there's 2. Okay, 2 fingers. Okay. Now, and I'm using my right hand, by the way. Okay. So I got these 2 keys. Now right to the left, that's C. All right. Now to find F, take 3 fingers. Okay, put them down there. Right down to the left there, that is my F. Okay, so this is something that you got to learn. Okay, so we're going to start with C because everything we're going to be doing is revolving around the letter C. That is our key that we're playing in, and we're just going to be focusing on one key today. All right, so there is my C note, okay? Now I'm going to use my thumb on C, my first finger to go up to the next note, and this is a D, my middle finger to play E, C, D, E, and then I'm going to put my thumb to F, and then use my first finger to play G, my middle finger to play A, my third finger to play B, and then my thumb goes under to G. Okay, or C, sorry. So these letters might seem kind of random, and I kind of think that they are. It is kind of arbitrary why these letters are where they are, but it's kind of like coordinates on a map, okay? These letters are fixed frequencies. A C is always C, a D is always D, and E is always E. And this is just one of the things of music that you have to memorize. There's no way around it. But it's also not what I think of as the most important thing. So we have what's called the fixed notes, which, C is always C. That's what's fixed mean. But what is actually more practical is to learn what are called the solfege syllables. And so a lot of people struggle with learning this. They complain when they're trying to learn about it, but it's a lot easier than learning the alphabet. Okay, there's only 7 of them. Okay, so C is Do, D is Re, E is Mi, F is Fa, G is Sol, A is La, B is T, and then we're back to C, which is Do. Okay? So we've got 7 notes here. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And from this point forward, we're only going to worry about the relative system because this is how notes are related. And these are the notes that are going to be used if we're going to make a melody, if we're going to make chords. Okay? So I think of the solfege syllables as the alphabet of melody. Okay? I think of solfege syllables as the alphabet of melody. Okay? It's kind of like, we use letters to create words, words to create sentences, sentences to create paragraphs, and so on. The do, re, mi, it's kind of like the letters of melody, and it just builds out from there. Okay, so we use these notes for everything. And so right now we're just understanding how to play them one at a time. So I'm going to play some songs for you. This is Brother John. Do, re, mi, do, do, re, mi, do, mi, fa, sol, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, do, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, do, do, sol, do, do, sol, do. Here's another one. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you keyboard so high. Sol, sol, fa, fa, mi, re, do, do, sol, sol, la, la, sol, fa, fa, mi, re, do. Okay, so any of these nursery rhymes that I can hear, I don't have them memorized or anything. I just know, I mean, I don't have them memorized like where I'm putting my fingers or anything, but because I'm so familiar with the do, re, mi, and the keyboard kind of helps me with that, I can just kind of feel it out. And I've done it so many times that I do know it by heart at this point, but it's the do, re, mi is a really great way. Like if you don't know something, you can kind of play around with it and practice singing and using your ear to figure out melodies. A lot of times I'll have students who I teach them a couple songs, and once they kind of get it, they come back to me and start showing me songs that they figured out on their own. You know, I mean, nothing complex, but just some simple songs. So I really love this because it gives this, it really empowers the student to, you know, use their own ear. It's like they understand the alphabet now, and they can figure out songs they know, or even create their own songs. I have students do that as well, which I think is really, really cool because it shows them that they can write their own music, basically. Okay, so, and I do emphasize singing while you're learning this. It helps develop your voice and create a connection to what you're hearing. I kind of think the voice is like a bridge between what you're hearing and what you're playing here. For this melody, we're going to use the right hand, okay? So here we go. Tell me if you can recognize it. Do, do, re, mi, re, mi, do, 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 re, mi, fa, la, sol, fa, mi, do, re, mi, fa, la, sol, fa, mi, do, re, mi, fa, re, mi, do. Okay? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Okay, so that is the alphabet of melody using solfege. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is intervals, and intervals are the tone. Intervals are like a measurement of tone. Okay, and we use numbers to describe intervals. Okay, so do is our root note. And the interval is a measurement how far away from that note, okay? So what's the distance between do and re? The distance is a second. The distance between do to mi is a third. The distance between do to fa is a fourth. The distance from do to sol is a fifth. The distance from do to la is a sixth. I might have said la a moment ago, but so sol is a fifth, la is a sixth, ti is a seventh, and then do is an octave. It's the eighth note. How many legs does an octopus have? 8. So that's where we get the word octave. So that's an octave. Now, we use these intervals to talk about playing notes simultaneously. So when we play notes simultaneously, it creates a harmony, also known as a chord. So that's a harmony right there, okay? This is a chord, and it's because we're playing multiple notes at the same time. So when we're playing a melody, it's like just we're playing kind of this linear thing that's happening in time. It's unfolding in time. Whereas a harmony is looking at how notes are happening at the same time. Okay, and we use intervals to kind of give language to this. So I think of intervals as the building blocks of chords. Okay, so the most popular and most common type of interval that we use is called a triad. And a triad is a root, third, and fifth. Okay? Now what I want you to notice here is that it's every other note in the scale. Okay? Because this is going to be important in a minute. So we've got do, mi, sol. Do is the root. Mi is the third. Sol is the fifth. All right, this next part is a little bit of a departure, and it's a little bit more complex, because what is about to happen is each note in the scale, each interval is going to become the root of its own triad. Okay, so what that means, we're not just looking at intervals in relationship to do. Okay, each note, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, each one of those roots, each one of those notes is going to become a root of its own triad. Okay, so each triad is going to have a root in relationship to it, a third in relationship to it, and a fifth in relationship to it. But we're going to also be using the language in relationship to the root of the key. This is where it gets complicated. Okay, just try to follow along. If you feel like this is too much, just try to follow along, and I think you'll eventually get what you need to get out of it, which is just kind of the practical answer here. With my left hand, do, mi, sol. Do is the root of the one chord. All right. Do is what everything is in relationship to for the one chord. Now when we go up to the two chord, re, now that is our root, and we're looking for the third and fifth in relationship to the two, the re. Okay, re, fa, la. Okay, so re is the root of the two chord, fa is the third of the two chord, and la is the fifth of the two chord. Okay, so every single chord has one of these, and we're going to go through this, and I know this might be a little overwhelming, but I just want to go through it this way, and then I'm going to give you a simpler way to do it. Okay, so starting again, remember, with the left hand, do is the root of the one chord, mi is the third of the one chord, sol is the fifth of the one chord, re is the root of the two chord, fa is the third of the two chord, la is the fifth of the two chord, mi is the root of the three chord, sol is the third of the three chord, ti is the fifth of the three chord, fa is the root of the four chord, la is the third of the four chord, do is the fifth of the four chord. I might have said something wrong there. Fa is the root of the four chord. La is the third. Do is the fifth. Okay, we're coming up. Sol is the root of the fifth chord. Ti is the third of the five chord. And then we got re, which is the fifth of the fifth chord. La, do, mi. La is the root of the sixth chord. Okay. Do is the third of the sixth chord. Mi is the fifth of the sixth chord. Ti is the root of the seventh chord. Re is the third of the seventh chord. Fa is the fifth of the seventh chord, and then we're back to the one chord again. Do, mi, sol, root, third, fifth. Okay, so that is about as complicated as I could have made this. But I just want to set that idea up because we're going to come back and revisit that idea, and it's actually going to be important to know what the solfege is in relationship to the numbers, because that is one of my favorite parts about music, the way that chords and melodies relate. But right now, we are not going to worry too much about that. We're just going to focus on what I consider to be primary. The primary is what's the root and what's the shape of the chord, okay? Now, what's cool is every single one of these chords pretty much has the same shape. Okay, we are just skipping every other note in the scale. Okay, right there we're skipping the second and fourth. The re and fa. We're just in between the root, third, and fifth of each chord. There's a note that's missing. Okay, so we really just need to know what the root note is and what the shape is. Okay, we're just worried about the numbers. So yeah, I just want to bring up the idea of how confusing this is. It's like the 1, 3, 5 of the one chord's easy to remember, but we could say, the 2, 4, 6 is the 1, 3, 5 of the 2 chord. The 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7 being in relation to the key of C, the do, is 3, 5, 7 is the 3 of the 3 chord, but then 3 is also the root. It's the 5th is the 3rd, and the 5th is the 7th. Okay, see how confusing this is? This information that I'm talking about becomes extremely useful at later stages, but right now we're just laying the foundation. So if you understand the numbers, like the basic idea of the triad, that it's a 1, 3, 5, and that each note in the scale, there's a root, is the root of a triad, and then how to play them. That's really all you need to remember. And to simplify it one step further, the only ones that we're going to be worried about today, and really for a while as a beginner, is the 1 and the 4 and the 5. So the 1 chord is based off of do, okay? The 4 chord is based off of fa. Fa's the root. And then the 5 chord, sol. Sol is the 5th note, so it's based off of sol. Okay, so with the 1 and 4 and the 5 chord, you can make a million songs. All right, so what we're going to do is talk about how to use these chords to make songs and how to practice in an effective way. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at one of the songs that we practice the solfege in, You Are My Sunshine, and we are going to play the chords along with it. So the way that I like to teach this initially is to sing the lyrics, and then on certain words, the words where the downbeat falls, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about the rhythm, we underline those words, so then you can you sing the words in the rhythm of the singing, the rhythm of the melody helps get the chord in the right place. Okay, so for instance, the first line of the song, You Are My Sunshine, sun is the word that we're going to play the chord on. Okay, so it goes like this: You are my sunshine. Let me do that one more time. You are my sunshine. The next line, and that's the 1 chord, by the way. So when we say sun, we're going to play the 1 chord, and it's the same for the second line. My only sunshine. So for this next line, it is the word happy. We're going to play the 4 chord. You make me happy. when skies are gray. Okay, so when we say the word gray, we play the 1 chord. You'll never know. So know is the next one. We're going to jump up to the 4 chord. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Love is the 1 chord. Please don't take 1 chord my sunshine away. Okay, I'm going to put this all together. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Okay, so how do you know where this is? You know where it is because I made this piece of paper and it has a ton of information. Not only does it have the underlined words, let's see, you can't really see it, but this will be available for you to download. And it's got the underlined words, it's also got the solfege. And what we're actually going to try to do is combine these now. Okay, so the first 3 notes of the solfege are do, do, re, mi, mi. You are my sunshine. Okay, so I'm going to get my hand ready to play the 1 chord on sun, and then I'm going to try that again. You are my sunshine. Okay, the next one is mi, re, mi, do, do, and sun. Mi, re, mi, do, do, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So I know that I'm making this look really easy, but really what I want you to see is that by practicing the melody independently and then to practice singing the chords independently as well while singing, both of these exercises while you're singing, one you're singing the solfege, you're singing the lyrics while you're just doing the melody, and then you're singing the melody while you're playing the chords on the underlined words. Okay, practicing both of these together, it's just like what I was mentioning at the beginning of the lesson. These things are simple on their own, and once each one becomes second nature, that you can do it like a language, you can do it naturally, then you can start to combine them. And this is really kind of how the learning process of music is. It's like a step-by-step. You learn this thing, it becomes easy, then you learn something else easy, then you can combine them, and you just basically keep on building on that until you can do a lot of things musically. So far we've talked about 2 different ways of practicing, working on the melody and then also working on the harmony, playing the chords. Okay, so the thing that synchronizes all of this together is the rhythm. Okay, this is what gives us the pulse to the song, and this is a whole kind of another section. All right, so we were using some rhythm when talking about the talking rhythm, the rhythm of the melody. Now, built into the melody, there is a rhythm of its own. Built into our language, there's a rhythm. Okay, so this talking rhythm kind of helps to connect the dots, but it's only half the picture. All right, so the talking melody is based off of the tones going up and down, and the language of the song, the words of the song. Now, the other part of of rhythm I like to call the walk-in rhythm, and this is more focused on the math and the counting. Okay, and this helps to kind of synchronize the basically underlying rhythm, the pulse of the song, with the talking rhythm, the rhythm of the melody. Okay, so previously when we were singing the words and just playing the chord on the underlying beat, that actually happened to fall on some of the important parts, some of the important beats of the walking rhythm, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So how we organize what I call the walk-in rhythm is with a pulse. Okay, so there's just pulse going throughout the song, but we differentiate that pulse into measures, and one of the most basic time signatures that we're going to be using is based off of 4. Okay, so we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is one measure of music. 1, 2, 3, 4. And one of the ways that I like to practice is playing a chord on every one beat. So I'm going to just play the one chord here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in every in every line of this song, there are 4 measures. So there's 4 beats in a measure. In a line, there are 4 measures, and there are 4 lines to this song. So it's all based around this number 4. And even if there's a song that's not based around, doesn't have 4 lines or whatever, there's still usually some kind of symmetry or some kind of pattern. The rhythm is a lot about patterns and kind of math, and it's a different part of your brain. So just in the same way, we're always trying to put things together. We're trying to use the math part of our brain with the language part of our brain here. So previously when we were practicing, we were singing the words, and the underlined words were actually on the one beat. And now we are counting and playing on the one beat. So the outcome, the music that we're playing on the piano is actually the same, but we're using 2 different ways to make the same music. We're using the language and the melody, and then now we're using the counting and the math. So those are both 2 parts of the brain, and we're using 2 of them. So right now we're going to focus on the math part of the brain where we're counting. Okay. So I'm going to go through what's called the chord progression, where we're just focusing on counting in the chords. Okay. So the first four lines of this song are the one chord. So it's like I'm going to count us in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, here we go. One chord, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, up to the 4 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the second measure of the last line has a 5 chord in it. So going through a song, in this sheet that I made has this way of practicing in it, where you're just counting out loud and you're playing on the one beat. Now, there's many different techniques of how you can practice the rhythm, and for now, when you're beginning, I just suggest just the most basic, where you're just playing on the one chord and you're holding it out for that whole measure. If you want to go to the next level, you can play every beat. So let's try that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was 4 measures of the one chord. Now, it can get kind of confusing. You're on like the second or the third or the fourth measure. You don't know which one that you're on. So what you can do to help remember which measure you're on is just count the first measure, okay? And so like, or count basically what measure you're on, and just change the number of the first number. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So that's how you can remember. And once this becomes second nature, you might not need to count every single beat out loud. You can just be like, 1 in your head, 2, 3. It just, you start to feel those other numbers, and you don't need to say them out loud. Now, one of the confusing things that we're already kind of coming up against is we're using numbers to talk about the rhythm, and we're also using numbers to talk about the chords. All right, so this is a problem. And there's not really an easy solution, except that you kind of just got to get, figure out what you're using them for, and just practice. And like I said, eventually, these symbols that we use, the numbers and the letters and the solfege, all of this stuff, they're just symbols to communicate what you're actually doing, what you're actually hearing. And over time, the music of it all becomes less abstract, and we just use these numbers and all these things as symbols to help us understand it. But like, for instance, learning to tap your foot. We want to tap our foot on the first and third beat. And eventually you don't even need to be counting out loud, because you're just feeling your foot tap in. Anyway, that's a little bit more of an advanced rhythmic topic that could be in another lesson or something. But for right now, just counting out loud, going through the chord progression is going to help you, develop the rhythm and the math and the pattern part of your brain. And eventually, practicing both of these together, you're going to develop an intuitive sense of both the rhythm of the melody and the rhythm of just the pulse of the song, the walking rhythm, so that you can sing the song while you're playing the song rhythmically. And I'm going to do that right now. So like, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So right there, I just started throwing the melody in there because that, it's like I said, it's like speaking, it's like a language for me. But I did not develop this capacity just by thinking about it. This is something that I practice all the time, and I speak this language with my students all the time. In fact, if I didn't spend as much time working with people on this, it would still be very difficult for me. But I've learned how valuable it is to me as a musician through working with my students on it, which is why I'm talking about the value of it, because it's really changed the way that I approach and play music. In conclusion, we have 3 different ways of practicing one song on the piano, and these 3 different ways correlate to what I call the primary colors of music: melody, harmony, and rhythm. And each one of these needs to be, become an intuitive part of you. And so right now we just kind of laid out what makes up each one, And these are great tools that you can use for so many things. For structuring the lesson. If you have a 30-minute lesson with someone, you can say, let's take a song and let's spend 10 minutes on each. Maybe you spend 2 minutes, like, let's warm up with if we're doing melody, warm up, play the scale, sing the notes, and then we're going to try to play that song. Okay. Then for the next section of 10 minutes, let's sing the melody, play the chords while we're singing. Then for the last part, the rhythm part, counting, playing the chord progression. And so this is, different students are going to have different problems at each different level, whether they're beginner or, more advanced. Some of them might be easier or more difficult. But so I do that with the lesson, and then I also advise my students to structure their practice this way, and this helps them remember what to practice. It's like they have a song, and then they have these different ways of practicing it, and this is also a great way to assess where your student is at. I have students who come to me, and they might be really good at melody. They might just naturally have a talent where they don't even know how scales work, but they can just sit down on an instrument and just start playing a melody without even understanding it. And that's really great. But they might have a really terrible sense of rhythm. So with those students, I acknowledge their skill in one area, but then I really try to fortify their, the rhythm, their ability to strum a guitar or to keep time. And because until they can kind of combine those two things, the weakest one is going to be holding them back. So really what my goal is to, everything that I do with a student is to work towards them being a well-rounded musician. Someone that can play a melody, someone that can, play chords while they're singing, someone that can keep time, and to work towards being able to do all of these things together. Because if someone can do that, I think it's amazing. So that's what my vision is for all of my students. And of course, there's different levels of this. My level, I guess I kind of put it in levels. To be able to just play the chords, to sing a melody, play it all in time. That's kind of like a level 1 type of thing. And then as you go, it's like playing in different keys, learning different scales, playing more advanced types of songs, eventually learning to read and write, all that kind of stuff. Other auxiliary musical skills. But the most basic is just what we're talking about today. So I hope this lesson was, you learned something, that you learned how beneficial the piano could be, even if you're not a, you might be playing a different instrument or something, or maybe this is an introduction to the piano for you, or maybe you are a teacher who wants to incorporate piano into your clarinet lessons or whatever. There's a lot of different directions that you can go from this. But this is kind of also an introduction to what I teach and what I think are the most important things for a student to know. So this sheet that I made for You Are My Sunshine is available to you, and I'm going to put it in the downloads. And I'm also working on kind of a song library that has this. It has the lyrics of the song. It has the Roman numerals. It also has the chord progression. So all of these 3 things can be practiced. So the last thing I want to say is I mentioned with the chords and the melody, like understanding that re is the 5th of the 5 chord or whatever. That is also going to be used on this, because that's really where you get chord melodies and you start to see these bigger connections. And that's something I'm going to be exploring in future lessons. So keep up with what we talked about today. Try to practice some of the songs that I'm going to be putting out, and you'll be ready for the next lesson. All right. Thank you.